It is a cold November morning. The windows are shut tight against the rain, and your 8-year-old granddaughter has been coughing through most of the night. You walk into the spare bedroom to check on her. The air feels heavy. The corner beside the window carries a faint, earthy smell that was not there a month ago. You pull back the curtain and find black patches spreading quietly across the drywall, climbing behind the dresser where nobody thought to look. The doctor says her allergies are getting worse. You buy an expensive air purifier. You replace the furnace filter. You spray the wall with a bottle that promises to kill mold in minutes. For a little while, the stains fade. The smell weakens. You think the problem is gone. Then 6 weeks later, it comes back. The black patches are larger than before. This time, they have reached the baseboard and the back of the closet. The air purifier is still humming. The expensive spray bottle is nearly empty. Yet the mold has simply returned to the same place because nothing ever changed beneath the surface. Now you begin calling companies. One quotes thousands for remediation. Another fogs the room with chemicals and tells you everything has been treated. For a few months, the walls look clean. Then another damp season arrives, and the same dark spots quietly return. The treatment removed what you could see. It never removed what allowed it to grow. That is the question most families never ask. Not how do you clean mold? How do you build a home where toxic mold struggles to survive in the first place? Welcome to Hidden Amish Wisdom. Around old Amish farmhouses, mold was never treated as something you simply scrubbed away. It was treated as a warning that something deeper inside the house had gone wrong. The old builders understood that mold is not the real problem, it is only the messenger. Remove the conditions that feed it, and the mold has nowhere left to live. That simple lesson has protected farmhouse walls for generations, long before chemical sprays, expensive dehumidifiers, and remediation companies became the first answer. I want to be straight with you before we go any further. Most of what homeowners are told about mold either treats the symptom or creates a false sense of security. Simply painting over mold, spraying bleach on drywall, or relying on scented, mold-killing sprays will not solve the problem if the moisture remains. The United States Environmental Protection Agency is plain about this. If the source of moisture is not corrected, mold will usually return, even after cleaning. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention says the same thing. Killing mold without fixing the water problem does not prevent it from growing back. University extension programs, including those from the University of Minnesota and North Carolina State University, have repeated this advice for years. The building must be dried. The moisture source must be removed. Otherwise, the mold simply returns. That is the honest scope setting, and this is where most folks go wrong. I am not saying every mold removal company is trying to mislead you, but it simply pays better to sell repeated treatments than to teach a homeowner how to eliminate the conditions that allowed mold to grow in the first place. The 10 old Amish methods I am about to show you all begin in the same place. Not with chemicals, not with perfumes, not with paint. They begin by making your home a place where mold no longer has what it needs to survive. And once you understand a single Amish method, you need to understand one simple truth. Mold is not searching for your house. It is searching for 3 things your house accidentally provides: moisture, food, still air. Take away even one of those for long enough, and mold begins to struggle. Take away all 3, and the problem often resolves itself without becoming a yearly battle. Moisture is the first and most important. A tiny roof leak, condensation on a cold wall, a damp basement, humidity trapped behind furniture. Mold spores cannot grow without water, even though the spores themselves are already floating through the air inside almost every home. The second is food, not scraps on the floor. Dry wallpaper, wood, dust, cardboard, Even the tiny layer of skin cells that settles on every surface gives mold something to feed on. The third is still air. Corners behind large furniture, crowded closets, closed cabinets beneath sinks, and rooms that stay shut for weeks all hold moisture longer because the air cannot carry it away. That is why the old Amish methods work so well. They do not begin by attacking the mold. They begin by changing the house. Every one of the 10 methods you are about to see removes one or more of these 3 conditions until the home simply becomes an unfriendly place for mold to live. Plain building science, real practice, real safety, real savings. Let us begin with the methods backed by the strongest evidence. Strong evidence method 1. Fix hidden water leaks immediately. Even a slow drip behind a wall can feed mold for months before you ever see a stain. Check under sinks, around windows, beneath appliances, and inside the attic after heavy rain. A dry house is mold's greatest enemy. Strong evidence method 2. Keep indoor humidity below 50%. Old Amish homes did not have digital humidity meters, but they understood the principle. They opened windows when conditions allowed, repaired damp foundations, and kept air moving. Today, a simple hygrometer lets you measure what they judged by experience. Strong evidence method 3. Improve air movement. Leave a small gap between large furniture and outside walls. Open closet doors from time to time. Allow air to circulate anywhere moisture tends to linger. Mold thrives in still, damp corners. Now for the honest scope setting. The remaining Amish methods are traditional practices that generations of farm families trusted, but they should always support, never replace these 3 foundational steps. If you skip moisture control, humidity control, and airflow, no folk remedy will keep mold away for long. The old methods work because they build on solid building science first. That is why they have endured for generations. Now, I want to be straight with you about the old folk remedies before I describe them. The research on some of these methods is mixed. Scientists are skeptical. The truth probably sits somewhere in the middle. For generations, Amish families placed bowls of charcoal in damp cellars, scattered dry lime around the outside of stone foundations, and kept small cloth bags of dried cedar, sage, or lavender in closets that tended to smell musty. Many families will tell you these practices helped. That experience is real. But there is little strong scientific evidence that any of these methods, by themselves, stop mold growth inside a home. What they may do is absorb a small amount of moisture, reduce musty odors, or make certain spaces less favorable over time. That is a meaningful difference. They are supporting habits. They are not miracle cures. If a pipe is leaking behind the wall, no bowl of charcoal will solve it. If your basement stays damp year-round, dried herbs will not keep mold away. Used together with moisture control, better airflow, and proper humidity, these old practices may provide another layer of protection. That is exactly how careful Amish households have always used them. Not instead of fixing the house, alongside fixing the house. That honest distinction is why these methods have remained practical for generations, while so many miracle cures have quietly disappeared. Now let me show you the one method no company can package, no spray can replace, and no bottle can sell: sunlight and fresh moving air. This is the oldest mold prevention method ever practiced, and it is still the most effective long-term method ever invented. The old Amish farmhouses were built around this idea. Windows were opened whenever the weather allowed. Bedding was carried outdoors into the morning sun. Rugs were beaten outside. Blankets were hung across the clothesline. Even cupboards and storage chests were left open from time to time so trapped moisture could escape. None of those habits cost a penny, yet every one of them made the house a little drier and a little less welcoming to mold. Modern building science explains why. Sunlight helps dry damp surfaces, while moving air carries moisture away before mold has time to establish itself. That is why a dark, closed room develops problems far sooner than a bright, well-ventilated one. This is the foundational Amish habit that has protected homes for generations. The honest math is simple. Initial cost? Nothing. Annual cost? Nothing. Annual benefit? Lower humidity, drier fabrics, fresher rooms, fewer musty odors, and far fewer opportunities for mold to gain a foothold. For most homes, this single habit begins paying for itself the very first day. It is also the one method nobody can sell you in a bottle, which is exactly why it remains one of the best long-term defenses against mold that any homeowner can practice. Before I close this video, I have to give you the safety information plainly, because this is where good intentions sometimes become costly mistakes. The honest rule is simple. If mold covers an area larger than about 10 square feet, keeps returning after the moisture has been repaired, or appears after flooding or sewage contamination, do not treat it as a weekend project. That is the time to call a qualified mold remediation professional. The second rule is never mix household cleaners. Bleach mixed with vinegar, ammonia, or certain other cleaning products can release dangerous gases that may cause serious breathing injuries. One cleaner at a time is the safe rule. The third is personal protection. If you are cleaning a small area of mold yourself, wear gloves, eye protection, and a properly fitted respirator designed for fine particles. Open windows if weather allows, and never dry brush mold because that sends spores into the air where they are easier to inhale. Finally, remember this. Not every dark stain is active mold. Water stains, soot, dirt, and mildew can look remarkably similar. Treat the moisture problem first, identify the cause, and then decide on the proper cleanup. That careful approach has protected old farmhouse families for generations. Slow first, certain second, safe always. The honest math is plain. A single professional mold remediation job can easily cost anywhere from hundreds to several $1,000s, depending on how far the mold has spread. If the moisture problem remains, that expense can return again a few years later. By comparison, the traditional Amish approach costs very little. A hygrometer, a few hours spent finding leaks, better airflow, lower humidity, regular inspections. Most families can begin with items they already have around the house. The real investment is attention, not money. So here is what I want you to do this Saturday. First, walk through every room with your eyes and your nose. Look for water stains, peeling paint, condensation, and that faint earthy smell that often appears before visible mold. Next, check beneath every sink, around every window, behind large furniture, and anywhere pipes disappear into the wall. This week, repair the first moisture problem you find and create more airflow in the dampest room of your home. This month, make a habit of checking those same places before they become expensive repairs. That is how old farmhouses stayed healthy year after year, one careful inspection at a time. Now, tell me in the comments below, did your parents or grandparents have an old way of preventing mold, dampness, or musty smells around the house? I'd love to hear those family methods, because preserving practical wisdom is exactly what Hidden Amish Wisdom is all about.